Welcome to the debate. Today, we're wading into a truly fascinating and, let's be honest, often controversial question at the heart of modern wellness culture. And that is the role of high-cost, specialized personal care. We're talking about luxury spa days, dedicated multi-day wellness retreats, high-end preventative health services that carry a really significant price tag.
A very significant price tag.
Exactly. So our central question is this. Are these expensive self-care treatments truly essential for achieving optimal mental health, or are they fundamentally just optional luxuries? I'm going to argue that for individuals navigating chronically high-stress environments, high-cost care provides unique, necessary inputs, an infrastructural investment, really, that lower-cost alternatives just cannot replicate, and that makes them essential for achieving true optimal mental flourishing and, frankly, avoiding collapse.
And I'm coming at it from a different angle. While it's clear these luxury experiences offer profound pleasure and, yes, temporary symptomatic relief, I contend that the actual mechanisms required for foundational mental health, stress reduction, restoration, emotional regulation are entirely accessible through consistent, low-cost, or even free practices. So if the core requirement for stability is accessible without a huge financial commitment, then by definition, these high-cost treatments are optional luxuries. They're a matter of preference and privilege, not a necessity for baseline well-being.
I want to start by framing why the cost in this specific domain dictates the quality of the outcome and therefore its necessity. We need to move beyond just simple stress management and talk about the preventative combat of chronic burnout. High-cost treatments are defined by two things: an immersive environment and specialized expertise. Now, the immersive environment is crucial. It provides a complete, scheduled, and frankly forced removal from all domestic and professional triggers. You can practice mindfulness in your home, sure, but the demanding emails are still buzzing on the counter, the kids need dinner, and the bills are still sitting on the desk. A true luxury retreat offers environmental control. It's designed to reduce sensory input and eliminate what we call perpetual context switching. It guarantees a depth and duration of relaxation that's necessary for a true system reset. And then there's the specialized expertise, access to licensed professionals offering targeted modalities like biofeedback training or specialized myofascial release focused on stress knots. That provides a level of physical and psychological relief that a standard $50 massage simply cannot touch. I frame this as essential preventative maintenance. It's an investment to avoid the inevitable and crippling financial, emotional, and professional cost that comes with a full mental health crisis.
That's a compelling argument about the benefit of removal, I'll give you that. But I just don't buy that the key to mental stability is contingent upon unaffordable spending. We know that effective mental health is really fostered through consistent, accessible practices. The foundational benefits come from daily habits, and critically, these habits build genuine resilience, which a one-off retreat just cannot do. We are talking about quality sleep hygiene, consistent moderate exercise, structured mindfulness, and setting boundaries in relationships. I mean, a profound psychological benefit can come from a consistent, long walk in nature or dedicated volunteer work activities that are low cost or completely free. My central objection remains sustainability and, well, financial responsibility. First, the significant cost of luxury treatments can actively introduce financial anxiety. If you are stressed about depleting your savings for a reset, you're essentially negating the stress-reducing benefit right there. And second, relying on expense fixes, treating mental health as a commodity, a temporary fix you purchase when things get bad. This distracts people from the essential, consistent work required for long-term mental health. Things like regular therapy, medical consultation, or most importantly, sustainable lifestyle changes that address the root causes of burnout rather than just treating the symptoms.
We have to prioritize sustainable, daily, accessible efforts. I appreciate the pushback on sustainability, but let's pivot back to the core definition, because I think that's where our disagreement really lies. I see why you define essential as what is required for foundational stability, the baseline for just getting by. But I have to challenge that baseline. For many individuals, and I mean high-demand professionals, single parents balancing multiple jobs, or chronic caregivers, their baseline needs are elevated. simply because of the nature of their load. I would define essential as what is required for optimal functioning and for flourishing. When someone is chronically overloaded, and this is a key term, their allostatic load, the wear and tear on the body due to chronic stress, is exceptionally high. To bring that load down and restore higher cognitive function, to restore executive function, that requires more than daily maintenance. It requires an intense, dedicated intervention.
If that intervention, which only the high-cost specialized environment can provide, is necessary to prevent cognitive collapse and maintain a high level of functioning, then for that population, it is essential.
I'm not entirely convinced by that reasoning, because defining essential based on the needs of a subset, even a high-stress subset, creates a major problem of exclusion and privilege, and we're talking about a universal concept like mental health. If a treatment is financially prohibitive for the majority of the population, and let's be honest, multi-thousand-dollar retreats are, it cannot reasonably be deemed essential for foundational mental health across the board. I mean, if we declare this level of resource investment is necessary for optimal functioning, what are we saying about the mental health of a teacher, a bus driver, or a nurse who can't afford it? Are we implicitly saying their optimal state is unattainable because they lack resources? Declaring luxury treatments essential, it just reinforces the notion that mental wellness is a commodity. And it obscures the fact that basic, stabilizing mental resilience is built through accessible, non-monetary means like strong social ties and consistent cheap habits. We need to ground necessity in what sustains the broadest population, not what facilitates peak performance for those with disposable income.
That is a powerful point regarding equity, and I absolutely agree that foundational stability must be accessible. But we are debating the role of resource investment in achieving optimal health. My argument isn't that a low-cost walk in the park is ineffective. It's that when a crisis point is approaching, or when an individual's chronic load is so high they're flirting with cognitive overload, the intensive specialized environment provides resources, the expertise, and the total detachment that low-cost options simply cannot match in intensity or depth. Think of it less as a luxury item and more like a specialized clinical intervention. We wouldn't argue that access to a highly specialized surgeon is optional just because standard preventative medicine is accessible. If you need a deep systemic reset to avoid a total breakdown, you need the tool most capable of delivering it. The expense just reflects the level of specialized infrastructure and expert time being leveraged.
I agree that specialized intervention is necessary for acute crisis. But you're framing the luxury retreat as specialized clinical intervention, and I want to push back hard on that assumption of guaranteed quality. How do we know the person paying top dollar for a 3-day aesthetically pleasing retreat isn't just paying for branding and marble floors? That they're not just getting an expensive version of a mediocre product dressed up as expert care? The efficacy of these experiences, if they are not integrated into a sustained therapeutic plan, is fundamentally limited. And this brings us to the question of intensity versus consistency. You argue that the sheer intensity of specialized care provides a higher return on investment than, say, a large volume of low-intensity care. I would counter that consistency builds genuine internal strength. Regulating the HPA axis, the body's central stress response system, is achieved through predictable daily behaviors, sleep, exercise, and low-level stress reduction. These practices build deep fundamental resilience. An intense, infrequent dose of relaxation is temporary symptomatic relief. It feels wonderful, yes, but the effects inevitably fade if you just return to the same toxic, high-stress environment without having built the underlying habits.
I concede that the label luxury does not guarantee quality, and consumers absolutely must be discerning. They should be looking for measurable outcomes and professional credentials, not just crystal chandeliers. However, the unique value of the immersive, expensive treatment is not just the relaxation, it is the forced, dedicated interruption of the negative cycle. The difficulty with relying solely on daily, low-cost maintenance is that when someone is already severely burned out, their executive function, their ability to plan, prioritize, and initiate those daily stabilizing activities is often the first thing to degrade. They know they should meditate, but they lack the cognitive energy to sustain the habit. The luxury retreat is a necessary forcing mechanism. It's an external commitment that forces the system to reset, allowing executive function to partially recover so they can then return and actually implement the low-cost, consistent practices you champion.
It's an expensive system restart that enables future sustainability.
It's an expensive system restart that enables future sustainability. Okay, that is a key point, that burnout degrades the capacity to start low-cost habits. But if the goal is a system restart, let's talk about financial sustainability, which, to me, is where the necessity argument completely collapses. We cannot gloss over the real danger of financial burden. If a person budgets, say, $5,000 for a luxury retreat, they are introducing a massive opportunity cost. That $5,000 could buy them 6 months of weekly, consistent talk therapy with a licensed practitioner, a treatment proven to address the root cognitive and behavioral causes of burnout. It could fund consistent, non-work-related social activities, or maybe childcare assistance, which directly reduces daily chronic stress. These investments are far more structurally sustainable and effective over the long term than one weekend of symptomatic relief. True self-care must be sustainable. If it requires debt or creates financial anxiety, it is actively detrimental to long-term mental health.
I agree that opportunity cost must be weighed carefully, but let's quantify the alternative. We're really talking about risk mitigation here. Budgeting for high-impact preventative care is an economically sound decision when you consider the potential financial downside of not intervening decisively. The cost of a debilitating mental health breakdown, which can be prevented by a system reset, it includes lost income for months, potential career damage, tens of thousands in long-term medical and psychiatric bills, and that's not even counting the cost of replacing human capital in a professional setting. The high-cost retreat, when used strategically as preventative infrastructure, is an insurance policy. It's a structured expenditure designed to safeguard long-term income and avoid much higher uncontrolled future costs. We have to acknowledge that sometimes the best way to secure your financial future is to invest strategically in the resource that maintains the source of that income, your own cognitive and emotional stability.
It is an insurance policy, yes, for a subset of the population whose income makes that premium affordable. But for the majority, the premium itself creates the very stress we're trying to avoid. And fundamentally, the retreat only offers an escape. It does not solve the underlying causes. You return from the luxury environment and face the same lack of workplace boundaries, the same caregiver exhaustion, the same impossible schedule. If the expense is necessary to achieve a temporary reset, but the subsequent relapse is virtually guaranteed because the root causes haven't been addressed, then the expensive intervention was merely an indulgence. It wasn't an essential piece of sustainable care. Necessity must lead to long-term solutions, and true sustainability is built by consistent, low-cost, boundary setting and lifestyle adjustments, not by intermittent, expensive breaks.
But the value of the reset is not that it solves the problems, but that it restores the capacity to address them. You need that period of profound relief to regain the critical distance required to implement boundary setting and lifestyle changes. That specialized environment is essential for that recovery. So, to summarize my position, for individuals operating under conditions of chronic, intense allostatic load, the unique quality, expert care, and guaranteed immersive environments of expensive self-care are necessary preventative measures. They facilitate optimal flourishing and, more critically, they guarantee the deep system reset required to regain cognitive capacity. This investment is essential preventative infrastructure to secure long-term stability and high-level function.
And to summarize mine, the foundation of sustainable mental health rests securely on accessible, consistent, low-cost practices: sleep, exercise, strong social networks, and daily mindfulness. Labeling high-cost, temporary, unsustainable treatments as essential risks commodifying wellness. It creates an unnecessary financial barrier, and ultimately it distracts individuals from the hard, consistent work required to address the root structural causes of their distress.
This discussion, I think, clearly illuminates the inherent tension between striving for optimal mental health and flourishing,
which may indeed require unique high-level resources, and the vital need to ensure basic foundational mental stability, which must remain universally accessible.
Right. The debate really highlights that necessity in mental wellness is often defined by the level of stress an individual is facing and the resources they believe they need to invest to achieve their desired state of well-being. Whether that investment should prioritize intensity or consistency, well, that remains the key question that every individual has to answer for themselves.